This is Kyle McCord, and you're listening to Austin, Felix, and Matt on the Devy Debate.
Welcome to the Devy Debate. All right, boys. Are we ready to debate? Austin, you tweeted something, girl. You tweeted your running back tonight. Explain yourself.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast. You jumped up and...
That's Austin Nath.
Who is going to be that guy? And for me, Bijan Robinson is still going to be that guy.
Back to the ground with Robinson, who spins and then tries to bounce it. A stiff arm, another one as he rides it, keeps his balance. They're going to say he stepped out, but
I'm Felix Sharp. I know you didn't think that we would get through this episode without mentioning the name one Zach F. Wilson.
Screener draw. Oh, Wilson is going to uncourt for the end zone, and he drops it in beautifully. And it is his roommate, Dax Milne, on the touchdown.
That's Matt Bruning.
G. Scott Jr. Obviously, I waxed poetic about him on the last episode, so I won't do that again here.
And this time it's Fields on the carry. Watch out! Justin Fields! Hello, Columbus! 51 yards!
Bruning, are you ready to go head-to-head with me?
I am.
Got to get my popcorn out here. Hold on.
Got to continue. I got Kyle McCord is going to end up winning the job. He's going to be rated higher.
Well, I'm not nearly as passionate about what I'm about to talk about.
Our apologies because Herbstreit ran out of time. We'll get him rescheduled soon. And for Matt Bruning and Austin Nath, I'm Felix Sharp. Good night and good luck. It's 9:30 in the only relevant U.S. time zone. That means it's time for the Devy Debate, brought to you by CampusCanton.com. That's Matt Bruning. That's Austin Nace, and I'm Felix Sharp. On a fanciful version of tonight's show, can Georgia knock off Alabama in the SEC? Does Emory Jones even matter? And will we see another Javonte Williams / Michael Carter type backfield in 2021? But we have to start with Cam Akers going down yesterday, or the news breaking that he went down with an Achilles injury. Mikel LaShore, Arian Foster, Donta Foreman. There have been a lot of high-profile type players who have had this injury, Matt, and it's all of them have been dust after they came back from the injury.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I think Akers is better than all those, and that's coming from someone who's not even the biggest fan of Cam Akers as a player and prospect. But I do think that he can bounce back from this. I don't expect it to be in 2022. I see a lot of people saying, oh, well, he'll be back and fine next year. I mean, if you even want to go on the light side, that injury usually takes about 9 months to bounce back from. So you're already talking about getting right around this time of year before you're jumping into training camps. I think if you want to be a little bit on the other side of it, maybe you say it takes him a year. So he comes back right before the season starts. I don't think he's going to be good to go. We talked a little bit about this on the roundtable, Matt Fox and I did when we recorded yesterday. And the only player who's bounced back in less than a year is Kevin Durant. And I think it's fair to say he's a unicorn, not just in the basketball world, but as just an athlete in general. And even he struggled a little bit the first couple months of getting back into it in basketball. And I feel like while the jumping is going to be a bigger thing in basketball, I don't think he has to deal quite with the cuts and everything that Akers will have to do in the backfield as a running back. So I think your best bet is hoping Akers fully bounces back by the 2023 season. And then at that point, what is he for fantasy and what is he for the Rams? Because I know there was a lot of talk about Darrell Henderson yesterday, and I've talked about it. We had a big discussion about it in our Slack channel the other day about Akers and Henderson. I thought Henderson was going to get more work than other people did because he was there last year and he didn't go away, and he in some ways outproduced Cam Akers. Maybe not the receiver that Akers is, but he outproduced him in some ways. And so I think Henderson would have still had a pretty big role. I don't think he's going to get that role away now. They don't have anybody else there. So Akers is a guy I'm fading because I'm a little bit more what's the word that you always use, Austin, when you're looking at prospects?
Well, I don't want to be in the Cam Akers business at all. Yeah. I mean, whatsoever. I mean, I don't remember. I mean, like, Richard Sherman came back. Terrell Suggs came back, but we don't have any evidence of a running back coming back from that injury. And so, I mean, if people are throwing around any type of first for him, I'll take it. I mean, in campus to Canton leagues, depending on what you could get, I would be trying to, like, I'm not in the business of, like, that injury is not to the point where we see running backs coming back. ACLs don't have a problem with it. Marshawn Lloyd, we're going to talk about him later. He'll be fine. But Achilles injuries, Austin, that's just that's you. I feel like you gotta get from underneath that player.
Yeah, he's a total fade for me at this point. I actually don't have any Akers anywhere. He's one of those guys that I just really liked as a prospect and never, just was not able to get my hands on him, unfortunately. But I don't know. I don't think I feel better about Darrell Henderson today than I did yesterday, though. Like, I always thought Henderson had a role, 30% of the touches, 35%, 40%, somewhere in that range. So now does he get bumped up, to 50-ish%? I don't think he's a bell cow guy. I'm selling him like he is. See what I can net for him here in the next couple weeks.
If anything, I think Matthew Stafford might have to carry a little bit more of the load, and he has the potential to do that. He can absolutely do that. I mean, he carried the load in Detroit when they couldn't run the ball at all. But I would still have the Rams as the favorites to come out of the NFC. I mean, I would still have the Rams to come out of the NFC. All right, let
me ask a question really quick. We had someone who posted this in our Discord channel, so I want to ask you guys this because we commented on it. Maybe you two didn't see it. I saw Moxley was going to answer, but then he didn't. Someone offered a trade of Cam Akers for Eric Gray. Would you do that trade? I don't think
I'd do that in a heartbeat. I would take Eric Gray. Yes, I would do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, he's a first round rookie next year, right? For a dynasty draft. Regardless of what I think about him. I think
agreed. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what I said too. And because PJ was against that. And my argument was because I'm not a big Gray guy either, but I was he's gonna go into Oklahoma's offense, he's gonna smash, he's gonna likely get at worst day 2 draft capital. So I agree, he's gonna be a first round rookie pick. Why wouldn't you trade? Because you're gonna be able to sell Eric Gray for more later if you don't want him. So I agreed. I was just curious because PJ was very against that. I know you're ride or die with Akers, Moxley. Be quiet. So I was just curious what your guys' thoughts process were on that because I know neither one of you are quite as big on Gray either.
I mean, we saw Kenneth Gainwell go in the 4th round, and I think Eric Gray is probably a better prospect than he is, and he has the benefit of he's going to play the season before he's actually drafted. So I think we could absolutely see Eric Gray, who had 30 catches his last season at Tennessee, get day 2 draft capital next year. So I'm absolutely taking Eric Gray.
Regardless of what people say, people are going to look at the Oklahoma helmet way different than they look at that Memphis helmet.
Yeah,
that's true.
They just do. Yep. They just do. Scouts will say they don't look at helmet, whatever. But the fact that the guy,
look at Ramondre Stevenson. That dude's a bum. He got drafted in like the 4th round too.
Let's not. Don't come over.
Felix is like, all right, on to the next thing.
He is not a bum. He is not a bum, and we're going to see. We're going to see this year. Go to our website, campus2canton.com. We've got the deepest college rankings that you could find anywhere around in campus. And C2C season is here, and we've got some questions from our Discord that we're going to answer here. Austin, I'll throw this to you first. This is from App State Avery. How do you evaluate a trade where one side is college assets and the other side NFL? Gauging value in C2C context still feels complicated at times.
Yeah, I think the easiest cheat way to do it is what do I think this guy is going to go for in rookie drafts in X amount of years? So like we just talked about with Eric Gray, I think he's going to be a 110 kind of guy in next year's class, 1.8, the running back bump a little bit. I try to kind of piece together that the best I can based on my rankings and based on just what the public perception is going to be as well. So like if I'm I sold Kamara in a league last year. I got back CEH, and then I got CJ Stroud and Jerome Ford. And Kamara was probably a 3 firsts guy. So I kind of sat down and said, do I think Stroud can be a first round guy? Do I think CEH? You just kind of sit there and you do the math on your fingers and toes a little bit and try to come to an answer. So I think that's the easiest way to do it. If you're not well versed in just general value as a whole.
And for players who are in the incoming rookie class, so Brees Hall, C.J. Spiller, just list your running backs and see where you would slide them if they get the draft capital that you expect them to get, and that's how you can kind of gauge. So, but I mean, be on the lookout. We might have something to help out with that at campus2kent.com sooner or later. Matt, how many prospects do you evaluate extensively in each class, and what position have you had the most success with? That's from Kev, who's also in one of our loyal listeners, who's also in
British
the
British Kev.
Well, we know I'm not successful at evaluating running backs. I feel like that's been well documented over the past couple episodes. So let's go past.
It's because you love that vision, Trey.
I do love vision. We're going to talk about a guy with vision here in just a couple minutes, who I'm really excited about. So let's see if he proves me right this year. I really enjoy watching quarterbacks. I don't know if I can say I'm successful at it. I feel like I've done a pretty good job in the past couple classes in projecting who I thought was going to be good and moving forward. When it comes to how deep, I mean, it depends on what we're talking about. If you're talking about rookie classes, if I really don't believe a quarterback, wide receiver, running back is going to be that good, I probably don't go that deep in it. I mean, we've got an incoming series with the 2022 high school seniors right now. The guys are going to be freshmen next year. I know Austin's much deeper than me and Alfred. I'm almost 20 deep now at each position, and my goal is to try and get, at wide receiver, running back, is go possibly even 50 deep. So it really just kind of, eventually you get to a point where you're watching some of these guys and they all just kind of blend together, and that's where I'll typically stop because I don't think I'm going to find another guy later, the diamond in the rough, but it varies from class to class. I can't give like an exact number.
I mean, when I'm bored, I have a list in my phone. So when I hear Austin and Colin on Campus Life talk about a player, I'll put it in, and I haven't seen that player, I'll put it in this notes column. And then when I'm bored, I just go and watch these high school players. And like you said, Matt, sometimes these guys just blend together, but every once in a while you get a Donovan McCulley who looks like, Johnny Manziel or Aaron Brooks back there, and it really gets you excited. So it's really fun to find some of those players that you are really, really excited about. Austin, do you build for the NFL side first, or do you draft college heavy first in C2C startup? I think this is from Krieger, a general question about how you build in C2C drafts.
Is it Krieger or is it Kegger?
Kegger.
Yeah, I think that's Dylan McKeag, who's in the listener league as well.
Yeah.
Santa Claus, Mr. Picking at the turn.
He's actually having a pretty good draft. He's pissing me off a little bit with some of the picks that he's taken.
Yeah, welcome to the club. I think it's less important about deciding beforehand that I'm going to draft NFL or I'm going to draft college, and just trying to have like this sounds really stupid, but it's all one team. Even though you have 2 championships, it's all one team. So I think the best, the teams that I come away the happiest with at times aren't the ones that are the most stacked after a startup draft. It's the ones where I feel like, I have my NFL team. I have a whole QB2 and RB2. And in my first 2 rounds of my campus draft, I walk away with a quarterback that's coming up next year and a running back that's coming up next year. And they're both, I feel, top prospects. I feel really good about that. And I wouldn't say that that's necessarily an NFL build or a college build. I think that's a very underrated part of team building, is thinking of it as one giant squad. So to answer the question, neither. Obviously, if I can stay young on the NFL side, then I'll do it. But that I think that's generally how I approach it.
Just to give an example of how those things were, in the team that I am most proud of, that feels most stacked, last year in the startup, I liked the 2021 running back class. So I grabbed Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift, J.K. Dobbins. I've got Deontay Johnson and DK Metcalf, my wide receivers. I think I got TJ Hawkinson as a tight end. But my quarterbacks last year were Alex Smith and Dwayne Haskins. But that was intentional because I knew, one, I could get the 101 to get Trey Lance, which I did. And then I've got Justin Fields and Zach Wilson too. So, that team is going to be just fine for a while. And people are going to get tired of me telling that story because I think that's like the 3rd show in a row that I've mentioned that team. But all right, the bulk of tonight's show is SEC East preview. We've got some interesting teams in the SEC East, and Matt, Vanderbilt is probably not one of them, but what do you got to say?
Disagree. Just to say, Mike, we saw your question on Carson Strong. If you stick around for the after show, we'll talk about Carson Strong, but we are all big fans of him here. So for Vanderbilt, impact returners, there are none that I could really find that I think are going to do much. Incoming transfers, my guy, Raymond Davis, redshirt sophomore running back. Davis made a name for himself as a freshman at Temple. In 12 games, he rushed for 936 yards and had 181 receiving yards. So combined, he went over 1,000. He only played in 4 games last year, ended up opting out and going into the transfer portal. There was a lot of just discord with that team. He ended up leaving. He joins on with Vandy here, and I expect him to be the lead running back. I went back over the past few seasons, and they've had one running back who usually gets a bulk or a majority of the carries. That player a couple years ago, many of you may remember, was Keyshawn Vaughn, who ended up getting pretty – was he a third-round pick? I don't remember. But I feel like he got somewhat decent draft cap. I remember a bunch of people hyped him up, so – if Davis can get 200-plus carries or close to it on this team, I think he easily puts up 1,000 rushing yards, and he's a capable receiver, so I expect him to get at least 150 receiving yards being the main back in this backfield because they're likely going to be behind. He's a good pass blocker, so he can stay out there for all 3 downs. Overall, I think Davis is a well-rounded back. He's got my go-to incredible vision, and he shows great patience behind the line. His ability to set up blocks and hit cutback lanes is very good. He also possesses great contact balance. He doesn't have that breakaway speed, but as you guys may know if you listen to our draft profiles, that's not a big thing for me on running backs. I don't care why. I still love Breece Hall. And in his freshman season, we actually had him on one of my other podcasts. He was dealing with an ankle injury, and he mentioned that he felt that is what hampered him in making defenders miss on his runs. And he wanted to improve on that going into his second season. Last year, he had 23 forced missed tackles in 4 games. If you extrapolate that out, that's 63 for the season, which would have been 5th in college, coming in just 2 missed tackles behind Breece Hall and Sincere McCormick. That's the main thing I'm watching for with him this year. I think if he can show that, I think he can get decent draft capital this year because really outside of Breece Hall and Isaiah Spiller, there's a big group of guys that I think if any of them have a good season could really kind of stand out and get some decent draft capital. No impact freshman. Bottom line, Vanderbilt has a shot to maybe get 3 wins this year with the first-year head coach and his staff. It's kind of hard to guess how run or pass heavy they will be, but they're definitely a rebuilding program. Raymond Davis is the only player worth talking about on this team, the only player I'd be willing to take a shot on in my C2C or Devy leagues.
I would just pay attention to the freshman quarterback who started last year, Ken Seals. So through 12 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. I mean, I just always want, or we'll talk about another kid later who started as a freshman, especially in the SEC. I just want to pay attention to those types of guys. It doesn't mean that they're going to turn into anything, but I just want to keep tabs on them. Austin, is Kentucky more interesting than Vanderbilt?
I mean, 2 is more than 1, I guess. So yeah, I guess a little bit. Kentucky has potential, I will say, and I'll talk a little bit about what I kind of see for their season this year. Impact returners, starting quarterback gone. They do have a couple guys that were on the roster last year. Joey Gatewood, who was a major athlete coming out of high school, transferred over from Auburn last year. He kind of struggled at times. He didn't even complete 50% of his passes last year. But he's there, he's alive. They also have Bo Allen, who was the 18th ranked pro style in last year's class, a very high 3-star. So they have some guys, and then they transfer in Will Levis as well from Penn State, who he's not very good. Like, people saw that video of him throwing against air a couple months ago, and like all of a sudden he's this hot thing. He's not very good, so don't do that. The big returning guy that was Chris Rodriguez at running back last year. Averaged 6.6 yards per carry, 11 touchdowns. Really not a receiving threat at all. He is the Kentucky running back. It's lazy. He is Benny Snell. So expect day 3 draft capital. He's going to cling onto an NFL roster for a few years, and he's going to rush for quite a bit of yardage this year in college, especially with that offensive line that Cole. I forget if it's Cole Kobelik or Cole Kobelich. I forget how you say the C at the end. But he's like a big-time SEC guy with the athletic. He says Kentucky has the best offensive line in the conference. They always have. Just they recruit linemen well. So that's going to be their game. It's going to be running the ball. The other kind of guys in the team are transfers in. I mentioned Levis already. Wan'Dale Robinson coming in from Nebraska. I don't know exactly. I think he's going to kind of be their Mookie Cooper, who we're going to talk about. Like they're just going to try to get the ball in his hands in a variety of ways. He played running back at Nebraska. He caught passes there. 34% dominator rating over his past couple years in Nebraska. So you got to figure it's basically going to be the Rodriguez and the Robinson show. They'll go as far as the O-line and the defense can take them. No impact freshmen, really. They have two very low 4-star wide receivers. I don't expect either to do anything this year. So I could see up to 9 wins on their schedule, just how the schedule lays out. I know I don't predict them to hit 9, but they play possible wins: Louisiana Monroe, Mizzou, Chattanooga, South Carolina, Mississippi State, Tennessee, Vandy, New Mexico State, and Louisville. Those are all very winnable games. They might get tripped up on 1 or 2, so I think around 7-8 wins is a fair prediction for them. The other 3 games are Georgia, LSU, Florida. Probably not. But this team will go as far as that O-line and the running game can take them.
I wanted to draft Chris Rodriguez in a league where I needed a running back, and you just watch him, and he'll have the edge on the linebacker and just green grass in front of him, and just he has no speed to do anything with it. And so while he is Benny Snell, but he's like taller, bigger Benny Snell, but just as slow. That brings us to South Carolina, the favorite team of our own Chris Moxley. Luke Doty, an Elite 11 finalist, is going to return as the starter. Played in 4 games last year, had a 60% completion percentage. But this team is going to revolve around the running game. You've got Kevin Harris and Marshawn Lloyd, who folks were really high on last year. They're going to get the ball a lot because there's not a lot of talent outside of those two. Shi Smith was the leading receiver last year with just about 600 yards. Nick Muse was the tight end, was the second leading receiver, and Kevin Harris was the third leading receiver. So the cupboard is bare, save for the transfer of Marion Brown. Marion Brown had a really good freshman season, averaged almost 19 yards a catch for Georgia Tech in 2019. Didn't mesh well with Jeff Sims. They just couldn't connect. So he makes the jump, which is questionable in my opinion, to South Carolina. Listen, Marion Brown is one of these small, fast receivers that we just saw that the NFL was high on in the 2021 NFL draft. Jalen Waddle, Tutu Atwell. Marion Brown has a 10 400-yard dash to his name as a high schooler. So this is someone with some real speed, but not only speed, but we saw him be productive in his first year at Georgia Tech. But I don't know that South Carolina is the place to highlight his skill set. Now, what they're going to do is they're going to run the ball a lot and then I guess go play action and try to hit him over the top. But I would want to see him in a place where he's going to get more volume, and it just doesn't seem like he's going to get that at South Carolina. But you could see him get some long touchdowns and kind of have that 20-yard average again. Maybe. We'll see. There are no impact freshmen that, at least from what I can tell. It's the 80th ranked class in the country, the 14th ranked class in the SEC. This is not a very good team, and I think even Chris Moxley would admit that later on. But I know that there's going to be some fun had, Austin, at Tennessee with the new coaching staff and everything they're trying to do there in Knoxville.
Well, and you want to know what's crazy about what you just said there? They're the 14th. Can you use the 14th ranked class, and they're what in the country? 80 something.
80.
So Kentucky is the 12th ranked class in the SEC, and they're 34th. There is a gap there between 12, 13, and 14. That's pretty crazy. Tennessee, impact returners, none. No, not a lot. Starting quarterback's gone. The backup last year, Harrison Bailey, might be the starter. We're not really sure. He was a high-ranked guy last year, 4-star. played with Eric Gilbert in high school. I feel like that's going to end up being his claim to fame. He's never going to do anything, but he's going to be in a bar in 20 years, try to impress the ladies and says, I played with Eric Gilbert in high school. So it's going to be him or two transfers I'll talk about here in a second. Running back, again, all three leading rushers are gone because their quarterback was one of the two, and then Eric Gray's gone to Oklahoma, Ty Chandler to North Carolina. Jabari Small, really the only returning rusher that did anything last year, 26 carries, 117 yards, no touchdowns. He's in contention to be the starting running back this year. Wide receiver, they lost their leading guy in Josh Palmer to the NFL draft, was taken in the 3rd round by the Chargers. They have a couple of guys coming back, but I wouldn't call them impact. They have Felix Jones Jr., who is like in his 6th or 7th year on campus. That dude has been around for forever. He's not very good. He's like a return specialist, and that's it. They have Jalen Hyatt, who is a deep ball guy. You know, he was a 4-star in last year's class.
Does Jalen Hyatt exist? Like, I don't.
Yeah,
do
who is Jalen Hyatt?
I'm not. I've heard the name. Okay, I'm just speaking on what I've heard other people say because I don't believe this person exists. He might benefit from being in Heupel's offense. They push the ball down the field a lot. I really don't know. But other than that, you know, Malachi Wideman gone. They have just a who's who of 4-stars that have never done anything in college. It's like a graveyard there. Ramel Keaton. Some of these other guys. So I don't expect that much from the offense. Transfers, incoming transfers that could impact them. They brought in Hendon Hooker from Virginia Tech, who's an okay passer, but I'm not sure he does what Josh Heupel wants in that offense. He is a rushing quarterback, and Heupel likes a mobile guy, but you need to be able to push the ball downfield, and I don't think Hooker can do that at a high level. They also brought in Joe Milton from Michigan, who was Felix's favorite player ever. He loved how he led that Michigan offense last year.
For one game.
So he tore it up that first game, but if you look at his game logs, they literally get worse every single game log. It's hilarious. He went 68% of passes in that first game. Then he went 62, 52, 47, 41, 33%.
But he has the arm talent that Heupel might be looking for.
He does. That's a very good point. So but I think Tennessee's above his level, and I think Tennessee's an awful team. And then impact freshman, I would have said maybe Kaidon Salter. But he couldn't keep himself out of trouble for more than 2 seconds. So he's gone. He's at Liberty. He'll fit in really well there with what they've got going on, both from a football standpoint and just off the field. Just really digging that match for him. So the bottom line for Tennessee, I see Tennessee fans online talking about how they think they'll win like 8 games this year. I think they'll be really lucky to win 4, to be completely honest. They lost their starting quarterback, who wasn't very good, but it's, starting quarterback. Their coaching staff has all been replaced. They lose both their top 2 running backs. They lose a bunch of their receivers. Their stud defensive, middle linebacker and Henry To'oTo'o is gone. Most of the line. You can just go on and on and on and on. All these guys are gone. I find max 7 wins on their roster, and I think they lose a bunch of these games. Bowling Green, Pitt, Tennessee Tech, Mizzou, South Carolina, South Alabama, Vandy. I could very easily see them losing 3 of those games. So it's going to be a really bad year for Tennessee fans. But hopefully Heupel can turn that around for them.
A good season for Tennessee has to be if they identify a quarterback.
Yeah.
Now, you hated on Harrison Bailey to start that segment, but he threw the ball all over the place in the spring game and was very accurate deep. And I think Kyle Francis pays attention to systems and what coaches do. I think that we want pieces of Josh Heupel's offense, and it's just going to be: are there some players that play higher than their potential this year under him, or is it going to be the recruiting classes that come in later? But he has an offense that is aggressive, and that we're going to want to have pieces of, specifically in campus to Canton formats when they're throwing the ball all over the place. If it's, Harrison Bailey to Jalen Hyatt, that offense is designed to put up points. It's just, does he have the personnel to do it this year?
I think the guys that you want aren't on campus yet. I really, really do. Like, I don't think any of those receivers are going to be day 1 or day 2 NFL draft picks. I don't think any of the running backs are. And I forgot to mention, they bring in 2 new guys, Tyon Evans, who is the number 1 JUCO kid, and Jalen Wright, who's an athlete. I just don't. I think the guys aren't there yet. We'll see what they bring in next year because I don't think their recruiting class for 2022 is off to a super hot start. But I don't know what I'm. They're all values, but I don't know who it's going to be. So I just fade the whole offense, I think.
Matt, Florida's offense was explosive last year. They're going to go through a quarterback change. They lose Kyle Pitts. They lose Tevin Grimes. They lose first-round pick Kadarius Toney. What do you see? I mean, is it possible for them to be just as explosive this year as they were last year?
I mean, Dan Mullen sure believes so. They've got a lot of talent on their roster. So the impact returners, so you've got Damon Pierce, the senior running back. Everything is pointing to him likely being the starter for the team this year. But I wouldn't be surprised if he splits the duties in almost a 50-50 timeshare. And we'll get to that running back here in a minute. He's got patience, vision, power, kind of the name of his game. But when I watch him, I'm just not really wowed by him. I do think he probably has a chance to get drafted next year. But I don't think he's going to be overly that talented. You've got Emory Jones, the quarterback, junior, first-round pick, Emory Jones, according to some at least. Dan Mullins named him the starter at Media Day. I think it was on Monday. Said that he's pretty excited, much to the dismay of my package here. He is excited about him being the leader of this offense. Says Jones brings some different dynamics to the offense, and he expects to tailor the offense more to that skill set with Kyle Trask now being gone. Emory definitely seems to be a better fit for the offense. I do agree there. And he can use his legs obviously better than Trask. He was brought in from time to time over the couple recent years to do that. Definitely has a strong arm, but I think he lacks the consistency and accuracy throwing the deep ball that Trask did. There have been sites, as I mentioned, claiming he'll be a first-round pick. If he can do that, then other returning quarterback, Anthony Richardson, I believe, does not see the field. I just don't see how Richardson gets on the field if Emory is going to live up to that first-round pick hype. I'm not sure we see much of Richardson in that case if Emory does that. And then I honestly have questions about whether Richardson will even stay in Florida. You've got Nick Evers coming in next year as a player that Austin has been very high on from the beginning. I believe he is top 5 for both of us in our quarterback ranks in the 2022 class. I think if Richardson stays, he'll be the odds-on favorite to win the job next year, but he could be a transfer candidate if Evers shows up early, does the early enroll, and then balls out in camp. So that he's a guy that I would watch because I do think Richardson has some skill, but he may not be long for Florida. Incoming transfers. Technically, he transferred there last year, but he has not played a game yet with Florida, I believe. That's DeMarcus Bowman, running back, redshirt freshman. He is likely the future of the Gators' backfield. I do think we will see a fair amount of him this year, but likely he will be the second guy behind Pierce in this rotation. Bowman is explosive. He's got speed for days and can string together multiple moves while not losing any speed. He only played in 2 games for Clemson last year, so we didn't get to see much out of him. There's still questions about him, but I'm excited to see what he can do in this offense, especially with a guy like Emory Jones at quarterback. Impact freshmen. So I've got on here, they were the 12th ranked national class, 5th in the SEC, but nobody on this list that I think is going to make any noise this year. I mean, you got Carlos Del Rio Wilson, but again, you got Nick Evers coming in next year at Wilson, maybe on his way out as well. Marcus Burke, you've got Dejon Reynolds. I think most of the guys that may make impacts for this team freshman-wise are going to be the defensive guys they brought in, not really any of the offensive guys. They've got, guys like Jacob Copeland. I can't even remember some of the other guys. I don't think those guys are going to do anything great for the offense, but I don't think they're going to get supplanted. Xavier Henderson, there's someone else I'm forgetting now off the top of my head, but those guys I think are going to be the main starter. Yeah, Shorter. Yeah. There we go. They're going to be the starters, and I don't think they're going to. Yeah, I know.
My kind of player.
They're going to get
bad.
And undrafted like Austin Watkins and Warren Jackson. Yeah, so they I think they're not going to get supplanted by the young wide receivers. So Florida is definitely an intriguing team for me, though. They made the SEC championship game last year, and they did lose a lot of offensive firepower, as Felix just mentioned at the top there. Trask, Pitts, Toney, Grimes, they all left for the NFL. And for me, this wide receiver core is very uninspiring, but I imagine at least one of these guys will step up in some way. If Emory Jones plays again to that first-round pick he's being set at by a lot of these different sites, and Florida is going to be a very good team. I think they can push Georgia to win the SEC East. I don't think that first-round pick ability is in Emory Jones, but I mean, again, because I bet what I bet on the line, he's going to end up going and balling out and be like the 3rd pick in the NFL draft. But I think a lot of this relies on what Emory Jones can do in this offense.
They also lose Lucas Kroll, who transfers from Florida to Pitt, and he's a player that I just, I kind of want to pay attention to. Florida has so many players who fit the profile of what I'm looking for: size, speed, strength. Anthony Richardson is absolutely the best athlete at the quarterback position in the country. The best athlete at the position in the country. I think that I mean, he has Cam Newton-esque type rushing ability. The question is whether or not he's going to be a good passer. Maybe there's a position change there. Justin Shorter, who five-star wide receiver who went to Penn State, did nothing, went to Florida and has done nothing, and has actually had some really bad drops and just bad plays. But then there's also Xavier Henderson, who's, again, one of these just tremendous size-adjusted athletes. But we got to see somebody put it together there out of the skill positions there at Florida. And Lucas Kroll left 2 years ago. Anyway, but that brings us to Missouri. Connor Bazelak held his own in 2021 as a freshman starter. Tyler Batty has 72 career receptions, and he could be an NFL player with his versatile skill set. You could probably start both. Well, you can start Batty in your campus to Canton leagues, given how much it's going to be used in the running game and in the passing game. Bazelak is somebody that I'm going to pay attention to because he's going to have 3 years as a starter. Now, Austin is going to tell you that Tyler Macon from East St. Louis, the quarterback that they brought in, is someone that could usurp Connor Bazelak. I don't see that happening. I actually like Bazelak. I think he was more than just a game manager in his freshman season, but I'll let Austin object here in a second. The impact transfer might be one of the biggest impact transfers in all of college fantasy, and that, of course, is Mookie Cooper, who made the right decision and left Ohio State University and left Ohio State University and went to Missouri. He's going to be used in all facets of the game. He's an athlete. I mean, he can be used in the running game. He's going to be used on sweeps. He's going to be used deep for an offense that keeps things really wide open. Now, 24/7 has identified that there are 100 impact freshmen for the year. One of those was Dominic Lovett, who played with Tyler Batty at East St. Louis. Friend of the show, Alan True, comps him to Randall Cobb. Not an elite athlete, but, I mean, I've started to look at production in high school, and Dominic Lovett was absolutely productive. Through 14 games, 74 receptions for 1,548 yards. That's a lot of receiving yards for a high school player. So watch out for Dominic Lovett. He's probably someone that you can get late. But this is a team that's going to be trailing, but it should put up a lot of points. Mookie Cooper, Tyler Batty are potential starters for you on the college side. And then Lovett and Bazelak are players that I'm going to draft or keep on my watch list. But Austin, you think that there's a chance Macon can take the job from Bazelak?
Not without some help. I think we've talked about it a couple times on the C2C pod, where it just seems those circumstances where the staff will play Bazelak, but if something were to happen to him, like even like a 4-week injury, Macon just has way more tools than he does. I think he could step in there and just perform really well, and all of a sudden Bazelak comes back and his chair has been taken. I could see that scenario, but I don't think without that Macon overtakes him. I just think Bazelak has too much of a head start there.
And what about how good do you think Mookie Cooper is going to be this year, Austin? I'm just curious because you've consistently trashed him on this podcast. So I heard recently you may have said something nice about him.
No,
and maybe somebody on this show. Oh, okay. I must have misheard.
I must have been a rumor. Yeah. No, I think I still like the bet that we made though, because the bet was 1,000 receiving yards, and I don't think he hits 1,000. I think he hits 1,000 total scrimmage yards. But luckily,
when did we make this bet.
I'm
really bad about making bets, but
maybe on the wide receiver summit.
No, I thought we talked about we were going to make one, but then we never did because then we got all tied. I don't know. Well, I'll go back and listen to it.
I'll just kick you in the nuts again after the Emory Jones one. So we'll just get you.
Let's go. Why not?
A lot of things riding on Georgia this year, Austin. Can they win the SEC? Can they beat Alabama? What players are going to make that happen for that team?
Yeah, impact returners is everybody. The entire roster, basically. Like there's not going to be a freshman that touches the field because they just bring back so much talent. Even with George Pickens going down with the knee injury this offseason, they're saying he might be back. I don't see why he would push that. I don't think he plays at all this year, and he might never play for Georgia again. Matt, do you have a...
I disagree. So I was listening to, I can't remember what it's called, the Dogs Out or something podcast. I think it's 247's Georgia one. They were saying that they think he will come back and play in November because he's not going to test well at any of the combine stuff. So if he doesn't come back and show it on the field for Georgia later this year, his draft capital is going to go down the shitter. So I would not be surprised if he does come back and try, especially if they're undefeated to that point or on their way to the SEC championship game with a chance to make the playoffs. I think he would come back and try and dominate that top level competition he'll get at the end of the season and a possible playoff run, because that will help him in his draft capital if he decides to come out.
You want to put a bet on it? No, I'm just kidding.
Sure, why not? My wife doesn't want to have kids anymore anyway, so let's make it 3 for 3. Let's just
Poor Matt. Poor Matt. So, yeah, I mean, even with him gone, they bring back JT Daniels as their starting quarterback, another full offseason. They said he was kind of limping still last year, coming off that knee injury that he suffered at USC. They're saying that is not the case this year. If he goes down, I think Georgia is worried, but I think if he plays the full year and he looks sharp, they are a national championship contender for sure. Just Daniels brings a whole other element to that offense. You know, his ADOT last year was 12.7. That was 4th in the country amongst any passers that qualified. I said like 20% of eligible snaps or something. He does need to cut down a little bit on his turnover worthy throws. He's kind of a host it up and pray kind of guy. If he can fix that a little bit, I think he could easily be a early day 2 NFL draft pick next year. Running back, they bring back the stable. Zamir White probably going to be the leader there. Averaged 5.5 yards per carry last year, had 11 touchdowns. Not really a factor in the receiving game. And I don't know if that's because he can't do it or just they have so many other guys there. All right. How much did Carl pay you to say that, Mr. Dak Nipple?
Let me just intervene here since we, for the listening audience, Dak Nipple has an issue with our dismissiveness of Jalen Hyatt. He says, surprised you guys are so dismissive of Jalen Hyatt. Guy has a little Will Fuller to his game, and there's no competition for targets. Heupel led the NCAA in plays per game at UCF, hoping Bailey wins the job. There was no competition for targets there last year, and he didn't do anything. I mean, I think people love Jalen Hyatt because he's kind of got that world-class speed, but let's wait until he does something, until we kind of anoint Mr. Hyatt there, who may or may not exist. I'm sorry, Austin. Go ahead and continue with Georgia.
You're good. And my thing, I didn't like Hyatt coming out of high school, so the situation has changed, but I don't love the talent. But yeah, so back to the running backs here. So Zamir White, but then you have Kendall Milton, who was a high 4-star kid last year. Barely is even going to touch the field because he's still behind White. He's behind James Cook, Dalvin Cook's brother, who's more of a receiving back there. You have DeJuan Edwards, who I really like. He's a little, he's like 5'10", 200. But I like at 95 other college football programs across the country, Edwards would be getting a lot of touches. He's not because of Georgia. They have Kenny McIntosh. They have so many running backs that they brought in Lavassier Carroll this year, and then they had to move to cornerback or safety because they just have so many guys there at that position. So all of those guys are going to be in the rotation there. Wide receiver, the guy this year we think is Jermaine Burton. You guys are working under that same assumption. He's going to be the top dog there.
Is he an alpha?
I think he can be. I want to. They only really used him on deep stuff, or like a little, just like quick at the ball out. Like there's basically those manufactured touches that basically are rushes to the outside. But they hit the ball out there really quick.
Against Alabama last year, his numbers didn't pop, but they were playing man-to-man defense, and I can't remember number 28's name. Patrick Surtain had George Pickens, and 28 had Jermaine Burton, and Jermaine Burton was getting separation from him very easily. So I'm really interested to see what Burton can do without George Pickens at his side, given how strong that running game is. Jermaine Burton has all the athleticism. It's just a question of whether or not he can be a number one guy.
Yeah, we'll find out quick. I mean, they play Clemson week 1, so we'll see what he can do there. But
Josh Joby last year was number 28.
There you go. So he's going to be their number one guy this year. They have Kiaris Jackson. I don't really get the Kiaris Jackson stuff because he only thrived with terrible quarterback play last year. As soon as JT Daniels came in, he didn't do anything. And obviously, JT Daniels likes to push the ball down the field, which is not Jackson's specialty. He is probably a slot guy at the next level. I just don't see anything there that's exciting. I think he's like a 4th or 5th round NFL draft pick. Then they have just a ton of first and second year guys there on that roster. They have Arian Smith, speedster, hurt his wrist. He'll be back this year. Marcus Rosemey, who had the Dak injury, but he'll be back, and I loved him. I think he's George Pickens-esque with how he plays. They have, Justin Robinson. They have Adonai Mitchell. They just have a huge list of guys there that could do something, and probably they need to do something for their season to really, hit the highs that they think it can. Tight end, they bring back Darnell Washington, who I am not a fan of. He's a big athlete, don't get me wrong, but he's almost too big, and he's, as I've talked about in a bunch of shows, he's just soft. Like, he doesn't want to block. Like, it's very hard. Like, even like people, Kyle Pitts was a solid blocker. You're wasting him if you're doing that, but he could do it at a base level. I don't think Washington can do that, and he's not such a receiver that he gets the Kyle Pitts treatment. And then they brought in Eric Gilbert. The big question mark is he a wide receiver? Is he a tight end? I'm interested to see how they use him, but I still think this is going to be a failed experiment. And then in the next year, he's back at more of a traditional tight end role.
I think it's going to work. I really do. I really think it's going to work. So I don't think he might have the label of wide receiver, but I think that he'll line up in line. I think they'll use him all over the place, and he'll get some of those wide receiver repetitions that might elevate him into the top 10 of the NFL draft, which is obviously his intention.
He was already going to get that. If he just kept doing what he was doing at LSU, he would have been a top half of the first round guy. He put up crazy numbers last. He almost outproduced Mayer in way fewer games last year. I mean, he's the best tight end prospect coming out of high school we've ever seen. So more power to him.
Did he outproduce Mayer though? Did he
on a per game basis? Yes, by quite a bit. Yes.
Did he? I thought I'd just throw that back out there.
That is my best Curb impression there. You're welcome, everybody. So bottom line, Georgia's a national championship contender, and I think even if they lose against Clemson week 1, they can still contend. It greatly reduces their margin for error, but they're going to be in the playoff this year, and if they're not, there's going to be some questions asked there, I think.
Can Georgia win the SEC championship?
Yes.
Bama, I'll keep saying Bama is vulnerable this year. I don't care how well you recruit, to lose 8 starters on offense, including basically the entire offensive line, your quarterback, your running back, your 2 leading wide receivers. Like, something has to bend eventually, and the defense replaces some guys too. So they're not going to be trash. They're not Tennessee. They're not going to win 4 games, but
that's South Carolina.
It wouldn't shock me if they lose 2, which said like so crazy. Like, wow, Alabama loses 2 games, but I think
it wouldn't shock me either. No, it wouldn't shock me either. And I can't remember my 4 playoff teams. I know 2 are Oklahoma and Georgia, and I actually think that they'll be playing in the championship game. That Georgia-Clemson game early on is going to be, that's a ridiculous, a ridiculous game. Matt, let me ask you this, just about the division in general. Mookie Cooper transfers to Missouri to get more opportunity. Would you rather have him now or more total yards from scrimmage? Mookie Cooper this year or any of those OSU classmates that he came in with? Julian Fleming, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, or your beloved G. Scott?
So the real question is, who has more scrimmage yards, Mookie Cooper or JSN? Because Julian Fleming and G. Scott aren't doing anything this year. So I'm taking Mookie Cooper.
I just wanted to hear you say that, but go ahead.
I've already been on
Clip it.
record saying that G.
Clip it.
Scott's not going to. I mean, if you want a clip, go back like 3 episodes ago when I admitted defeat. I fell on my sword. I did the whole thing. It's Cooper. I don't want to say easily, but I have more faith that Cooper does it. I think he's going to be the main point of that Missouri offense. As much as I love JSN, I still think regardless of who wins the job, McCord or Stroud, it's going to be Olave, Wilson, then JSN. And I just also think with having Travion Henderson, I don't – more and more people keep talking about Mayan Williams from Ohio State. He may actually have a bigger role, as Felix has been saying. I know, Austin, I agree, but everybody's –
Austin is shaking his head? Are you shaking your head at Mayan Williams?
I mean, there's a lot of people at Ohio State who are saying that he's been really good. I think they're going to run the ball a lot as well. So I think JSN he's going to get pushed down and maybe gets 400 or 500 yards receiving this year. He's not going to do anything in the rushing game. I think Mookie Cooper can get close to 1,000 yards receiving, and then you add in the rushing yards. I think it's easily Mookie Cooper this year. I don't want to take Mookie Cooper long-term over JSN, but if you're talking about a 1-year bet or whatever, I'd go Mookie Cooper.
I'm sorry. We need to take this detour. Mayan Williams would have outtouched Master Teague in the championship game had he not gotten COVID. Had he not gotten COVID after Trey Sermon was injured, Mayan Williams may well have been the lead back for the remainder of that game. He is a tremendously versatile runner. He can run with finesse. He can run with power. He's somebody that you do not want to tackle. You talking about people being high on Mayan Williams. Mayan Williams is like the next Zach Wilson for me. I'm pounding the table, telling people I was just on the Devy Marketplace singing the wrong theme song, pounding the table for Mayan Williams. So Austin, you get that nonsense out of here.
He's a meatball. That's not my type of running back. That's not my type of running back. It's really, really not.
Well, let's talk about some different running backs then. Marshawn Lloyd and Kevin Harris. How productive can that backfield be? Can they be the next Javonte Williams and Michael Carter?
So here's the problem. Those two guys were able to do that because North Carolina was – I mean, they had the guys up front to establish the run, and then they were up a lot. Like game script dictated that they could just – pound teams at times. Is South Carolina ever going to be in that position? Like I don't know. But I do think they're probably it's so tough to say this because you have Alabama and Georgia in the SEC. They might have the best 1-2 combo running back though in the SEC. They might. It's close. What do you think, Matt?
I was trying to pull up how many times South Carolina rushed the ball last year. North Carolina was top 10.
Yeah.
South Carolina is not even looks like in like the top 30 or 40. So I agree with what Austin is saying that I think they can be the best in the SEC, but I don't think – because I also don't know how healthy Marshawn Lloyd is going to be coming back. You're talking about Javonte Williams and Michael Carter both fully healthy, main parts of that thing. I still think Kevin Harris is going to be the lead back with Marshawn Lloyd kind of spelling him at times. So I think they could be the best in the SEC. I don't think they put up the kind of numbers Javonte and Michael Carter did this year, though.
They ran it 37 times a game last year. So
they're going to have to run more this year. Matt, give me a yes or no. Emory Jones, first-round quarterback?
First round, no.
Austin, yes or no? Emory Jones, first-round quarterback?
Can I put like an adjective in front of it?
Sure.
Hell no. Hell no. I know parents are listening. Children are listening, so I won't put the word in front that I was going to. Hell no.
Chris, how did we do tonight?
Y'all were okay. There were a lot of opinions thrown around, and I can't technically correct those. So it was a little challenging for me, but we're not officially keeping score. There's a board right here I keep everybody's score at, but I will say that Austin was very complimentary of Matt on Canton this week, found on our C2C feed and now Fantasy Points feed. And so Matt kind of got a couple points on the unofficial board, of course. But I will add that Kentucky is projected for 6.5 wins in Vegas. So apparently Austin is one of the most bullish people in the country on Kentucky. And Felix is out here trashing South Carolina. I need to go out here and defend that in 2020 they had the 19th class, and in 2022 they had the 16th class. So 2021 is more of an outlier.
So
than anything.
they're just stacked. So South Carolina is just stacked. That's why they had a bad class this year.
Well, a coaching change will do that. And then I will say analytically, although Mayer and Gilbert were close, there is very little evidence that per game production matters more than total production. And Mayer is clearly ahead, even if Gilbert shifts back to tight end.
Thank you, Chris Moxley. That's going to be our show for tonight. Make sure you check out all of the content around the Campus to Canton family. Check out the website. Check out the Campus to Canton podcast feed. Apologies to Kirk Herbstreit. We ran out of time. We'll get him rescheduled soon. For Matt Bruning and Austin Nace, I'm Felix Sharp. Good night and good luck. Sal, we're thinking about you.
Apparently my stats weren't enough for Chris. Sorry, Chris.
We are giving Chris like a heart, like we're not throwing any numbers around anymore, just because it's like
No.
it's the season isn't here, so there's just
part
there's
of
less.
it is also that y'all have become so much better at fact checking yourselves. Like I feel like it's gotten harder to fact check incorrect stats because y'all do like so much more. Like it feels like, I don't know if this is true, but there's much more research going into like anytime you
Very true for me, at least. Yes,
Okay,
I
yes.
don't like getting called out.
So, like, instead of me saying, JT Daniels just pushes the ball down the field more than anybody in the country.
Yeah.
I looked up his ADOT tonight
Yeah.
and saw that he had the fourth highest ADOT in the country.
Yeah, like
So-
in the past, I would like round around, like, yeah, he had right around this, and then Chris Mox, like, yeah, Matt. So actually, he had this. I'm like, fuck you, Chris. I'll look up the actual stat now just to be safe.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Y'all listen, my job is not very easy.
Yeah,
Y'all
so Mike-
I got to stretch for some of these.
Yeah, Mike said he is officially a wide receiver, Mike. You can't even play him at tight end on Fantrax. Which, what the fuck? Fantrax will let Chaz Surratt was a fucking QB linebacker for 2 straight years, and all of a sudden Eric Gilbert has to immediately be switched from tight end to wide receiver. I meant to go on a huge Twitter tirade on that the other day, but what the fuck?
He's too high profile.
I wish-
He's higher profile.
Matt, can you please like clip that and just use it somehow, please?
Yeah,
please,
yeah.
Fucking
please use
Fantrax.
that somehow. Oh man.
Literally, that's the only reason I picked up Chaz Surratt in a league 2 years ago. He was
So,
a fucking
do
QB
we-
linebacker.
I've kind of come around on Gilbert.
At wide receiver?
No, I just think he'll play tight end at the next level. So I don't really
Yeah,
care.
exactly. Right. That's exactly what I think.
Like,
That's
what
exactly what I
do I care if he plays wide receiver for 2 years? NFL's going
Right.
to draft him as a tight end anyway. Like,
It's the same argument for Cole Turner. Cole Turner's not putting his hand in the dirt at Nevada. So
I've just come around. I mean, I'm not drafting him in like the top 2 rounds where he was going, but if he's falling to like the 4th,
Well, I guess
I have no issue taking him there. I just have I don't think, I mean, you're not going to get good production out of him on the college side because he's going to play wide receiver, so who cares? But if the ultimate goal is to get NFL prospects out of him, like, I don't really care.
he's trying to catch as many passes as possible.
Yeah. Whatever.
He averaged like 6 catches a game last year.
He wants
Like-
to be used like Kyle Pitts.
He
who
ain't
lined
Kyle
up
Pitts.
outside a lot.
There's
I think
one
it's
Kyle
just
Pitts.
Used like Kyle
It's a
Pitts.
stupid decision that he made. I don't think it's going to be super impact. I think the NFL is just going to say you were an idiot for doing this, but we don't care because you're like a super athletic tight end. You're like one of the best tight ends we've seen. So you were wide receiver for 2 years, whatever. We don't care.
Let's look at Chris Moxley's team in the Devy Debate Listener League.
Yeah,
I traded my second round pick away.
right now.
You traded it for what?
I traded. I moved up one spot
To
to
get
get Bijan.
Oh.
And I straight up traded my second round pick away. I was like, I don't care.
Who's going to be the
Who is
best wide
Michael
receiver
Franklin?
in the SEC?
Who is Michael Franklin?
It's Troy Franklin. He's just not in the system.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Who's going to be the best wide receiver in the SEC? Best is in like highest draft capital or like most productive this year? Because I think Mechie will be the most productive wide receiver in SEC this year. Does that sound right to you guys?
Let's see.
Yeah,
Braylon
probably.
Sanders.
Yeah,
Braylon
Braylon
Sanders
Sanders
could
might too.
be-
Yeah,
that's a good one.
Yeah, and maybe Wally. I mean, those are probably the three that'll be the most productive in the SEC. Draft cap pick. I still want to say Pickens. If you're talking about 2022 guys,
If he comes back and plays, so if they really think, if you got Georgia people saying that he's not going to test well, I think that's going to matter because he's not been consistent on the field. That's been my biggest issue with Pickens. Like, he's shown flashes of brilliance, and some of that may have been how bad the quarterbacks were, but he hasn't shown that he can consistently dominate.
Is he really going to test that poorly? Like, I don't
That's
think
what
he's
they
that
said.
bad of an athlete.
That's what they
I
said.
don't
They
think he's
said
gonna
that
test poorly.
He's that
They-
bad, really?
they said that they think he
Ugh.
will test bad. That's why they believe he will be back in November and play for Georgia down the stretch.
Don't
it's not-
don't like that.
And I'm almost positive that was I listened to a 247 podcast and they brought it up. So the fact that they were talking, I trust 247. I keep saying 2.
Austin, who are you
24/7.
saying is George Pickens-esque out of those other guys?
Roseme, I think, is the most like for like Pickens
Is he
replacement on
healthy?
that roster. They're saying he's going to play this year. He didn't play in spring because he's still coming back from the injury, but I think he's going to play.
Was it
Now,
just a broken? What was it?
it was the
broken?
Dak. It was the Dak injury.
It was yeah, that's what it looked like.
Yeah.
Okay, so I
is
guess
he
Dak is coming back. So
is he going to be the 3 there? You think?
I don't know, but I think like if as the season goes on, if he's like mentally ready and everything to play, I can easily see a scenario playing out where they still haven't found a Pickens yet, and they're kind of struggling. They're a little shaky on offense, and they plug him into that role to kind of try to break things back full circle. And I think if he's healthy, can do it. That's just the level of player he
down
is.
people's throats. I mean, I just think that their running game between White and Cook and Milton and Edwards, I like Edwards too.
Yeah,
they got 4 guys who could they could just keep throwing guys at you.
Hey, Felix, you want to? I'll let you go because you were the first on Carson Strong. Mike asked during the show what we thought about Carson Strong.
Yeah.
Do you think he can be a good NFL quarterback?
Yeah, so as a freshman, Carson Strong was very much a game manager. But when you got that deep in C2Cs, you're looking for somebody who you can play. And so he was a game manager, but he had Elijah Cooks that season, and he did some good things that freshman season. And then last year, and then you just have him rostered. And then you realize that, well, not only Carson Strong, but Toa Taua, Elijah Cooks before he got injured and then suspended, and Elijah Cooks and Carson Strong, they were values last year. And then Romeo Doubs blows up during the season. Torrey Horton looks like he's going to be a player. And he just became a guy who was just like throwing. Now, you look at his yards per attempt, it's kind of like it's not near 10. Like I want to see near 10. It's not near 10 because they do a lot of catching the ball and throwing it right out to the outside if they're playing soft zone. But that dude throws the ball down. Like he is an aggressive passer throwing the ball downfield and not just along the sideline, down the middle and everything. So I've heard him say, oh, well, he is negative rushing yards, whatever. Listen, the NFL can only take from the pool of players that it has. And I'd much rather have Carson Strong than Jaden Daniels or Keaton Slovis or Malik Willis, quite frankly. I just think that he's a really good quarterback. And I think he's going to be – I've been saying this. I think he's going to be a first-round quarterback. I think he's going to go in the top 15. And it wouldn't surprise. I think it's going to be Howell, Rattler, Strong. I think that all those guys are going to go in the top 15.
Do you think that he goes ahead of Malik Willis? Because I don't think he does. I think both are first round picks, though. I
wouldn't draft Malik. I don't like that type of profile at the quarterback position. So if it was my team, I would pass on Malik Willis. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if he's that dynamic of a rusher where we can say, all right, that compensates for your lack of accuracy.
I think he is. I think he's a dynamic rusher. I just don't think he brings any
You think you
NFL
run for
caliber
1,000?
quality.
Because if you're going to be that type of passer, you have to run for like 1,000 yards.
I think I'll run for 1,000 yards in the
Okay.
NFL. I think he can do it. I don't think he brings anything besides a strong arm to the passing game, though. Like, I don't think he has any trait besides a big arm at all. Like, I don't see it. I think he can bring I think Austin said it when he was going on his I hate Malik Willis rant a couple weeks ago. That was like, he's not as an accomplished passer as Jalen Hurts. And I think that's true. I think he's the closest thing we've seen to Lamar Jackson from a rushing perspective, though. I think he could post 1,000 yards if he started 16 games in the NFL.
Well, he's 17. I mean,
17 now.
and if he is, I mean, that means he's like a QB1.
Yeah.
And
I don't even like Malik
well.
Willis. I'm not like a truther or anything. I just I feel like I'm being told that Malik Willis is a first rounder, and I'm just ignoring it. And at some point, I need to just
Listen
adjust.
and say he's going to be, yeah,
Austin.
Austin. You need to just listen. He's
Jay.
going to be first rounder.
So Carson Strong had an 8 out of 10.1. He was tied for like 48th in college football last year. So
Yeah, and I said that's because Nevada does a lot where they say set hut if they're playing off, they will throw it right out to the receiver. So
Jay, I don't. You said Wally Ha. Wally might be the most productive wide receiver in college football this year.
Well, there's no Wally slander allowed on this podcast.
Like,
listen,
even if you don't think he's a great NFL prospect, look at Mike Leach's wide receiver 1 over the past 15 years.
I
They
really hope that
crush.
I picked him up in the Survivors League that I'm in with Shaq and a whole bunch of other people in the Devy community, and that I sent you that text message. Like, I was trying to figure out if I should take Tolbert or Wally, and it actually, what you said made sense. Is like, can I start Tolbert as an NFL wide receiver? Maybe, but I should be able to start Wally for the next probably 3 years. 3 years. So
Jaden Wally is Jordan Addison with 2 rounds of ADP difference.
Used to be a lot more than that before I got my hands on him.
Used to be a lot more than that.
yeah, it probably was a little more. Yeah.
I've been taking him extremely early too.
Oh yeah, I forgot Jay. Jay has sniped me on him, that little shit.
Jay took him in the 3rd.
Yeah, I was gonna take him on the way back, like on the 4th. It's like we're kind of at the end there, so I took Addison at that spot.
So
made me sad.
I took him like 75th overall in our 16-team league, like not even a month ago, and it's impossible to get him there anymore.
oh my god.
Yeah, he doesn't go there.
You have to take him in probably the 4th if you want him. If there's one of us, me, you, PJ, Jay, apparently, in your league, then you need to take him earlier than that. Because I will take him in the 4th. I'm the problem doing that.
The way that you have affected his ADP is honestly kind of funny. So 117, 112, 90, 87, 70, 62 is now his current one in July. So to go from 117 back in February all the way up to 62 is clearly like the Austin effect. It's what Jaden Wally is going at currently right now.
I think 62 is still too low for him.
Well,
you mean
that's
at
just
the position?
ADP
Is that
average.
at the position or that's
no?
the
That's
overall?
his overall
overall.
ADP.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's only got brought down because he got picked at 45, 56, and then 77. 77, I think, is what's dragged him down some in the July ones, it looks like. But I can sort by wide receiver. Like latest wide receiver. Oh, where'd he go?
I mean, late 4th, early 5th is probably the sweet spot. But you might have to take him like mid to early 4th if you want him.
He's going around wide receiver 30. And now.
I think he's an NFL guy. I think at worst he's a day 2 guy with a very productive collegiate career. Like, I love Jaden Wally so much. I'm right here with Austin. Like,
You're ranked high. You have him ranked a little bit higher than I do. But I have him 17. You have him 14 or something.
yeah, I'm the highest of everybody on him. I'm just so in. Like, I have very little. I like. There's not that much dislike in his profile, and Jordan Addison being above him, like. I think Wally could easily be above him, especially if we're factoring collegiate production. Like,
yeah, Addison, he'll have a nice year this year, but then Pickett's gone, and Pitt doesn't have a.
I mean, I think, yeah, and I think there's very little chance that he outproduces Wally either. They're the same. They are the same player though, like the exact same player. They run the same round of routes. They get production the same way, whatever. But at least Wally's tied to Mike Leach. Like, even if NFL like prospects are wishy-washy for both.
Austin, who are your quote unquote guys when we did that segment a few weeks ago or maybe a month ago? Do you even remember?
No, I have to look them up. Let me see if I can find my notes. I keep pretty
I mean, I'm guessing Wally was on that list.
I think he was. I think that's where I first said like the why is he going so much later than Jordan Addison thing. I think that's where I said that for the first time. Let's see.
As we get closer to the season, like I just find myself having Dwayne McBride on all of my teams. I wish he was really 220 pounds. I don't think that he is. But he's listed that way. He's probably 210 pounds.
I just took him fairly early in maybe one of the GM leagues.
Yeah, I took him early. I took him above Brian Robinson, I mean, which is like a no-brainer to me. And like Brian Robinson was the next pick. I was like, well, I made the right pick then.
I'm not a big Brian Robinson guy. I'm not sure what you're hoping for there. Like, I don't think he's like a bell cow.
No.
So
and I'm getting what's the running back who got drafted by the Jaguars in the second round out of Alabama? What was his name? I cannot remember his name.
When?
I mean, in the last 10 years. Let's see, Jaguar.
I don't know why running back went to the Jaguars in the second round.
Talking about
TJ
Alabama.
Yeldon.
Yeah, let's say, yeah.
Oh, Yeldon.
Yeah. I'm wondering if that's McClellan's comp. Because TJ Yeldon was a good all-around back, but was not particularly excellent at anything.
I love TJ Yeldon. I missed any part of the conversation, but I love TJ Yeldon.
I was wondering if he's the comp for Jace McClellan. TJ Yeldon's stats here. Let's see.
Yeah, I found my guys. Wally was on there.
Who else did you have on there?
I had Wally, Jalen McMillan, Michael Jackson III, Jerome Ford, and Brennan Armstrong.
It's me, Michael Jackson.
Would you take Brennan Armstrong over Michael Pratt?
There you go.
Over Pratt?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't think Pratt ends up being an NFL guy. Like, he's fine. Like I just
Brennan Armstrong isn't either.
Yeah, but I know that Brennan Armstrong is going to score 27 points per game this year in college. Like
so is Michael Pratt. That's what I'm saying.
Pratt outscored him last year. Pratt was like a top 10 fantasy option last year.
Right.
So was Armstrong.
Pratt threw 20 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, even though he probably should have thrown 20 interceptions. But I mean, he runs the ball. He scored 8 touchdowns on the ground. Michael Pratt is like he's a QB1.
Where do you put Hutchinson?
I have Hutchinson fairly high amongst the guys that just like have no reasonable NFL shot, but I have him below like Ellaby.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think Ellaby has a much better shot than Hutchinson.
Why are you hyping Ellaby and not hyping Sky Moore?
Armstrong outscored Pratt by 12 points last year.
So
by 12 points?
So they're close.
Points. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I have Hutchinson 23 among quarterbacks in our ranks. I really like Preston Hutchinson for the production
Apparently.
wise.
Jeez. I don't know if I can get there.
I was going through the rankings because we were talking about it recently about who I just have like way off of everybody else, and
Holy
Hutchinson's the
shit.
guy that I
Yeah.
think I'm way higher on than everybody else.
Yes.
I
mean,
just-
the next highest is Austin. And
Ypsilanti
nobody else is-
stand up.
Like 45.
48.
Austin's got him at 48. I'm the lowest on him out of everybody. And Alfred and Felix are closer to me than they are you two.
He's gonna post.
Oh.
He's gonna post top 10 season, and you're gonna get great collegiate production from him. I don't mind.
I do
My-
have a couple guys I need to move.
My
Amari
rankings are
Toure, Jay, is one of those
very
guys who's
heavy.
taking spots from Xavier Betts, and he's a transfer from Wyoming, I think. But I don't know about
Is it
banking on
Wyoming?
the Nebraska wide receiver core. Even though I do like Omar Manning, and I like.
I think he's going to be very good, Jay. And I was really hoping nobody else would be paying attention to him.
I've
Toure,
never-
you do?
Dominated.
I know nothing about him.
Dude, he
Yeah, he
dominated.
started in the spring game.
Yeah, he dominated at Montana. I think he's going to be the best player at Nebraska this year.
He started over Betts. He started opposite Manning, and
I can't remember. I want to say it's like over 2,000 receiving yards, if I'm remembering this correctly.
In a season or in 2 years?
Let me pull it up before. I don't want you to correct me.
it's got to be 2 years.
But
I was gonna say, holy shit!
he's been like very dominant. Here we go. Nope, that's not it. They don't even have the stats for him. I'll have to see if I can pull it up from their website.
I dropped Omar Manning in the league yesterday, Felix. I thought of you as I hit the drop button.
Why your team was that loaded? Where
You have to see this freaking roster,
You can
man.
afford to drop Omar
It's-
Manning.
it's
Who
the
can
Big
be
program.
two guys?
brag.
These guys let me build a fucking juggernaut in the program in 1
You
year.
didn't have a taxi
In
squad or
1
something?
year.
Like you could put somebody on IR. You had to just
Dude,
straight up
I have
drop.
to drop like all these like CFF guys. Like I have to drop one of the SMU receivers, Taj Harris, Omar Manning. I'm trying to think some of the other guys I dropped. They were not easy decisions
Yeah.
for a lot of my drops.
Yeah.
It's just not pulling it.
I literally I have in terms of wide receiver, I'll show you this bench here. It's gross. So on my bench, guys that I'm not even going to start on a week-to-week basis this year. I have Jaden DeLara, Noah Kane, Amarion Brown. Josh Downs is not a starter for me. Then I have Mingo, Coy Moore. I have Wandale Robinson on my bench, Theo Weiss, Jalen Robinson, Arian Smith. I have my 3 tight ends are Jalen Weidermeyer, Eric Gilbert, and Elijah Arroyo, and I have Will Mallory.
Oh, that's a stacked tight end team.
My quarterbacks, I have Rattler, Stroud, Dart, DeLara, McCord.
Mm-hmm.
I'm waiting for a trade to process here. I'm Corey Brooks, Zach Charbonnet, and Jalen Berger about to show up on my bench too.
I like
Yes,
Jalen
it
Burton.
was. So it was over. It was over 3 years, but he had 1,495 receiving yards last year, 13 touchdowns on 87 catches.
All right.
I just don't trust any of the wide receivers in that offense to produce at a meaningful level.
You don't like Adrian Martinez?
I mean, there's going to be a low volume passing game.
I just
still
wrote an
believe
article
in
about
Adrian
buying
Martinez.
Adrian Martinez
It's true.
for fantasy.
I still
great.
believe in him.
Jay, it is a beginner league, and I know that it's a beginner league because Bruning is in it.
But hey, how we doing? Hey, I like my team. May not be as stacked as yours, but I've got a very good team as well.
Yeah, barring an utter collapse, I think I run away. I mean, I'm starting every week probably Rattler, Stroud, Gibbs, McCormick, Burks, Justin Ross, JSN, Weidermeyer, Ottman Bell, Jerome Ford, Eric Gray.
I love Jahmyr Gibbs, but I just feel like I don't know that he's a guy that you should be starting.
He
I
averaged
agree.
19 points a game last year.
Yeah, he did. I feel like that was a lot of touchdowns.
Where
though.
does that rank though?
He would have a lot of games with like 60 yards and 40 yards receiving.
He catches a ton of passes.
He
Though.
catches a
That's the
ton
thing.
of
Like,
passes.
he
He had
really,
25 catches in 4 games last year.
Yeah.
That dude is when he's going to go to the NFL, he's going to catch 100 passes. That dude is going to catch 100 passes in the NFL.
I love Jahmyr Gibbs so much.
I
think
mean,
Jahmyr Gibbs might be my favorite college player. He's just awesome.
So it's a top.
You know he changed numbers, right?
Yeah, well, I ordered a fucking
He
jersey
finished
for
20.
him.
He finished
in-
24th in last year.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
In points per game.
No, as 24th overall. Points per game, he finished 22nd. So not that much better.
Let's say on a returning basis, he's top 20 in college
Okay.
in points per game.
Maybe I need to put him back in my starting lineup then because I had one place.
The floor is just so high with him.
It is
Like,
really
that's
high.
like because he
It
catches
is
all
really
those
high.
passes.
And I mean, in all honesty, everybody ahead of him, though, is coming back. So maybe he jumps a couple of those guys. But almost every single guy I'm looking at on this list, I don't know about Lady Brown come back to West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of him, most of those guys are back. So I don't know how much he jumps up, but
I mean, did Georgia Tech add anybody besides like James Blackstrain? Who I'm not even sure he'll start this year.
They brought in a transfer too, I think, wide receiver. But I mean, Jeff Sims is going to limit that offensive ceiling.
Yeah.
Like, not to be a dick, but
James, he will also check it down a shit ton.
I mean, that's why I'm glad Amarion Brown left because his skill set doesn't fit Amarion Brown at all. Jeff
No.
Sims.
Oh yeah, but Luke Doty's skill set definitely fits.
Austin, who's the wide receiver to own for Washington State?
Travell Harris.
Yeah, it might be Renard Bell. I think I'd rather have Renard Bell. Rolovich,
so?
I'm pretty sure. I had a conversation with Mike Bainbridge a while ago, and he said that Rolovich offenses target the slot more than anything else. And I'm pretty sure Renard Bell is their starting slot guy.
He is.
Yeah, there's 19 points a game last year.
Oh, see, I love Travell Harris. That's surprising.
Let me look up their preseason. I have it open here. I have it tagged all the time. I just go through it. So they have Travell at 19, and they have Bell at 32. So
For what is this?
overall CFF finish this year.
Okay. I think Travell Harris is going to finish higher. I have him at probably in every league because he's going so late.
I mean, you could probably get, but I mean, how many people are actually out there drafting Travell Harris or Renard Bell? I mean, I haven't heard those names come up.
Me in our listener league in like 25 rounds.
Yeah.
Ooh, I didn't realize that.
What round are we in here? The 410. Do I take Jaden Wally or Marshawn Lloyd? It's a mock.
Man, those are my two guys.
Yeah.
You're asking the wrong person.
Mock. I'm going Lloyd. By the way, this new sheet that Adiko did is fucking sick. Have you guys used it?
Oh, it's awesome.
Mm-mm.
It's amazing. It's like all of it. Like he has it arranged by ADP and shit. And like it all moves and stuff as you take guys. And on the left-hand side, it tells you like who are the biggest reaches and like the biggest steals.
Oh,
and
yeah.
like who's doing the best against ADP. Like it's a fucking sick thing. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So looking at Fantrax right now, Austin, you are projected to get the most points by 100 points over my team and 200 over Ray, and nobody else is really close to the three of us in Conference 1.
That doesn't.
But I
surprise
think
me.
my saving grace is I think because I have Malik Willis and Desmond Ridder as my starting quarterbacks because I'm weak at wide receiver. That's my biggest issue. But that's also with me having Mecca in my starting lineup right now, which I don't think he's not going to start for me. But I need to make a trade or grab somebody. See, it's helpful that I'm at the third pick here in the supplemental draft. I can probably grab Dubs, and that'll help me out a little bit. But so, I mean, I'm not loaded for the long haul like you are, but I think I've got a team that can win this year. So I think it's going to be very interesting.
What if Calvin Austin is there?
I don't think he is. He is. I looked earlier.
I would way rather have Calvin Austin over.
My problem
is not going to produce well this year.
I don't disagree with you. It's not even that. I know who I'm going to take, and it's not a wide receiver. I'm going to probably take Cole Turner because I have nothing at tight end. I'm starting Peyton fucking Henderson, man. That's my tight end right now on that side. I need a tight end who can produce and has at least some NFL upside. Because I'm pretty sure my tight ends on the NFL side are horrible as well. I think I have Kittle, and that's it. I don't have anybody else. So,
why are you worried about Dubs, Austin?
He's never outproduced Elijah Cooks when he's been on the field.
Okay,
Elijah Cooks is the guy. Plus, they have Cole Turner. Plus, they have good running backs. Plus, they have Torrey Horton, who's going to demand snaps. They have just all these other mouths to feed there.
I like Torrey Horton.
Elijah Cooks is an X receiver.
Dubs is not going to – I don't think Dubs produces at his ADP. That's the problem I have with him. He goes way too early based on what – I think a lot of people are going based on what he did last year, and he does get a lot of the talk on Twitter. Like I saw – I think someone at Draft Network or something, one of the bigger sites put out a big thing about Dubs, a big thread about him the other day, talking about he's going to get NFL draft cap and all the stuff there. All these people are hyping him up that he's going way sooner than I think he should because I agree. He's not going to produce at what his ADP is.
I also think he's a day 3 NFL draft pick.
How far are he and Khalil Shakir separated in our ADP?
I don't know, but I've been single-handedly carrying Shakir's ADP for like 2 months now, so somebody else needs to help me out here a little bit.
I tried to grab him in the listener league. Someone snagged him right ahead of me.
Yeah, Austin.
I think it was me.
Fuck.
Yeah.
I took
a lot of guys, like these guys. I put them in the search box, and I'm like,
how are they gone already?
Raheem Sanders is one that I've checked like 5 times. I'm like, he's got to still be there. Did you take him, Felix?
Yeah.
In the listener league?
Yeah.
Yeah, you did. Because I was
Shakir. Shakir's
I know
going
I didn't
6
get him
wide
in Survivors,
receivers.
and it made me upset.
Oh, their ADP is exactly the fucking same, pretty much.
That
Shakir is
is
124.33. Dubs is 124. So
That's
they're going
egregious.
like next to each other.
That is a Khalil Shakir day 2 NFL draft pick. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. I am all in on the Shakir bandwagon. I have him everywhere except the listener league because Austin took him. I am so in on Khalil Shakir.
Do we have a what's it called sheet, right? I don't think I've looked at it.
Yeah, one of those what's called sheets. Yeah.
Is it on the is it on the thing with where I can click and look at the stuff that's on the sheet? I can't
Man, if you were from Philly, you could be doing that, John.
Yeah, the whatchamacallit.
Yeah,
a placeholder. Yes,
sheet.
it
is
is
on the Fantrax.
It is pinned on there. Yeah. As are the bylaws.
I don't care about the bylaws
because I'm a great commissioner. The MFL league isn't set up yet, but
I feel like that's a shot at me, and I apologize.
Don't we need to start that draft here soon?
Probably in the next week or so. Yeah. This is the first weekend I haven't been gone in a month coming up, so things will be getting done this weekend.
Austin, notable vacationer.
Notable vacationer, yes. And I've still written more articles than Colin, baby.
And me. I mean,
I've been giving you a hard time about going on missing one episode for like 2 weeks now.
It's all right. It's all right. I don't forget.
People don't forget.
I really thought that the you logging into the C2C pod on Thursday would have been so funny.
It would have been perfect. I told Colin about it. I was like, "Hey, can you send me the link?" And he was like, "Why?" I was like, "I want to Tony Reale."
It would have been so funny.
But
I don't know. Is that the Tune one that I was supposed to be in, Jay? That I was all hyped up for.
No, we have. I'm in a 16-team startup that's about to start. And Jay's in there as well.
You guys think Spencer Sanders is an NFL quarterback?
No.
Do you think he's a day 3 guy?
6th or 7th round, maybe.
Yeah, he's like the big 1970s NFL. Like somebody will some old school front office will like him. He'll go 5th round, 6th round.
Yeah. I don't like Spencer Sanders. I don't think he's particularly good. But
I like
NFL
is he worse than Davis Mills though? Davis Mills
Yes.
never should have gone where he
Yes.
went either. Davis
Yes,
Mills was
he's
like
worse.
my lowest rated
He's-
quarterback in last year's class.
He's
so
worse
bad.
than Davis Mills. Spencer Sanders is not good. He's worse.
Davis
He's
Mills
worse
is
than
either.
Davis Mills. Okay, Davis Mills is overdrafted, but I think he and Spencer Sanders deserve to go around the same spot.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think they're both like 5th round guys, 6th round
Yes.
guys.
Yeah, but it's not. I mean, Davis Mills being overdrafted isn't really a Spencer Sanders problem.
Hmm.
Maybe Houston will draft him in the 3rd again next year. I don't know. Houston's got such a shitty front office that who knows.
They're ran by a freaking pastor who has no idea what he's doing.
Jay, I actually agree. Spencer Sanders was my favorite last year because he was so profitable for DFS because every week he was underpriced. It was awesome. You just stack him and Tyler Wallace, and then you get Elijah Moore. It was perfect.
You gonna stack him and Brendan Presley this year?
I don't know.
Am I going to?
Well, yeah. Are you thinking about it?
Yeah, are you?
No, I'm a Presley guy. I don't need to. Well, I mean, there are so many guys with higher ceilings than Spencer Sanders. Actually, Spencer Sanders has a fairly high ceiling.
He had some really good spike weeks. He won me money last year in DFS because he actually had some spike games where he threw like 3 touchdowns and like 270 yards. I feel like that's true. I don't know. But I feel like I played Spencer Sanders stacked with Tylen Wallace and did fairly well. Because he was so cheap. He just like paid off at like 4 or 5 times whatever his price was. Now, that's pretty hard to do at that price range. So Spencer Sanders, terrible NFL quarterback. Okay NFL quarterback if you consider being drafted okay. Awesome college DFS player.
Oh man, PJ out here getting me so many drafts for our ADP. What a guy! What the fuck is this sheet?
How many drafts do we have going on this month?
So right now, I'm actually like really up. Like I'm almost totally up to date on all the drafts and like entered into the actual ADP calc. Let's see here. I already have.
July has 3 in it right now.
I'm not totally caught up yet. So I have those 3 plus the Papadakis draft plus the Crabtree. Plus he just gave me another one. So we have 6 in there right now.
For June. For July.
Yeah.
June was a slacker. Running those drafts just got too much for me, along with everything else I was doing. I couldn't keep them going. So here we are.
Ooh.
Well, we ready to hop off, gentlemen? It's getting late.
Yeah.